The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Justice Department officials told President Trump in May that his name was among many names mentioned in the Epstein files. This is something the White House is now labeling as, quote, fake news, end quote. Our panel will be here to weigh in, but we do want to start with CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. We also have our Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Paula, I want to go first to you, and especially this Wall Street Journal headline, which is that the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files, that he was told at this meeting the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. Some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said that they contain hundreds of other names. We are in the course of reporting this out, obviously. But what else do we know? And it also comes in the context of these court decisions today.
Let's start with the Wall Street Journal reporting what we have not independently confirmed. We have received some statements from the Justice Department saying, quote, the DOJ and the FBI reviewed the Epstein files and reached the conclusion set out in the July 6 memo. Nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. We have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. We'll get to that in a second. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. So in that statement from the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, they're not directly addressing the most significant part of this, which is the reporting that Trump was told, who's mentioned multiple times in these files. Now, there's also a statement from the FBI Director Kash Patel. It says the memo released on July 6 is consistent with a thorough review conducted by the FBI and DOJ. The criminal leakers and fake news media tries tirelessly to undermine President Trump with smears, lies, and this story is no different. I'm reading that because it suggested to me that the FBI director there is calling the story a lie, but that's not actually specifically what he's saying. And I think all of this is really important, Casey, because if we go back to the first Bondi-related Epstein controversy, you may remember she held an event to great fanfare at the White House where she handed out binders of what was promised to be new information related to the Epstein investigations. And a lot of MAGA-aligned influencers were very disappointed because most of what she handed out was already in the public record. But sources at that time told me a lot of the frustration from the White House with Bondi and that of it was the fact that they didn't redact Trump's name, even though these were records that were already well known. They were flight logs. There's a lot of frustration around Bondi's handling of that incident. So it tracks with what the Wall Street Journal is reporting here, that they would be very sensitive about any mention of Trump's name in subsequent files. Now, you also asked about the potential release of grand jury information because we know.
Let me pause you just 1 second there, because I do want to make sure that we get this White House statement on the record as we continue to talk about this. So here was White House Communications Director Stephen Chung responding to this. He says, quote, the fact is that the president kicked him, Epstein, out of his club for being a creep. This is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and liberal media, just like the Obama-Russiagate scandal, which President Trump was right about. Of course, we're going to get to that later on in the show because that's what they were trying to talk about from the podium today. But Paula, it's also worth noting, of course, the Trump Justice Department did ask for these the grand jury testimony, the grand jury materials to be released. Continue, you were talking about what's going on there. And I think my sort of big picture question for you is, did they actually want those released, or did they know that did they go in expecting this to happen?
Well, they want all of this to die down, but that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. But after the fury following that memo where the Justice Department said they weren't going to release anything else, they had to at least make it appear that they were trying to do something else. And the idea that you're going to unseal grand jury material, that's a long shot. And they really hit one of their first roadblocks today because they're seeking the unsealing of evidence in multiple grand juries connected to Epstein investigations, both in New York and Florida. And a short time ago, a judge in Florida ruled that she would not release information related to grand juries that were convened in West Palm Beach in 2005 and 2007. So this is the earlier Epstein investigation. There were also, of course, grand jury records in New York related to the more recent charges against Jeffrey Epstein before he died and Ghislaine Maxwell. But here in Florida, the judge said she would deny this request because the Justice Department said This stuff should be released because of extensive public interest and, quote, transparency to the American public. But the judge said, look, those don't qualify as exceptions to what is usually the standard. The grand jury material remains sealed. Now, that's not surprising. This is always a long shot. There is a slight glimmer of hope for the Justice Department in New York up there. The judge is still looking at this. He's given the Justice Department until next week to provide more legal arguments for why this should be unsealed. Victims and Maxwell have until August 5th to file their positions on the unsealing. Maxwell is expected to oppose this, and a short time ago, that judge said that they would not allow Maxwell and her attorneys to review this grand jury material. But the headline here is, Casey, no matter what happens with these grand juries, the Justice Department will continue to face questions about why they are not releasing all of the material within their power to release, and this new Wall Street Journal report is just going to continue to amplify those questions.
And of course, Mani Raju, people who have questions include many Republicans on Capitol Hill, or at least enough of them to cause the House Speaker quite a few problems. And there's also this subpoena that just came down for Ghislaine Maxwell. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, and this is not the only subpoena that could come down here, Casey. Yes, this subpoena came down from the House Oversight Committee. It was pushed by a Republican Congressman, Tim Burchett, yesterday. Ultimately, the House Oversight Committee voted to move ahead with that. Today, issuing a subpoena asking for a deposition in her prison cell by August 11th. Now, that is one matter. There's a significant move afoot, though, in a separate subcommittee as part of the larger House Oversight Committee. Republicans appear poised to defy President Trump and join with Democrats to subpoena for all of the Epstein files. That would be a hugely significant move. Now, this vote has not happened yet, but in a key subcommittee that is now considering this measure, Democrats have tried to force a vote to consider the call for a subpoena for all of the Epstein files as pushed by Congresswoman Summer Lee. They need one Republican to vote for it. Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina just told me moments ago she plans to vote for this measure after getting some changes that she expects to get to redact the names of the victims here. But this is what she just told me moments ago, that she plans to vote in favor of this Democratic effort to subpoena for these files.
So I will amend the motion, or I make a motion. It is requested that the ranking member and the short negotiating arena is very important. I will be supporting it, but it's very important to protect it for sure. I'm going to amend the motion to protect the identity of the victims. I think that should be first and foremost. As a measure to protect women and kids.
And she is part of the group of Republicans who have signed on to a separate effort, that effort by Assist Congressman Thomas Massie, to try to force a vote in the full House of Representatives to release all of the Epstein files. She supports Mr. Massie's effort on that issue. Now, on the subpoena itself, the chairman of that subcommittee, Casey, Clay Higgins, he's a Republican, told me he does expect enough Republicans would vote with Democrats to move forward on calling for a subpoena here. So assuming that motion is approved this afternoon, all indications are that it would be approved, then it would be the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, would have to issue that subpoena within probably in a matter of days here. So a significant movement here. It just shows you the pressure the president is under, the administration is under, from the president's own allies to release more of the Epstein files.
And of course, you're standing out in the parking lot behind the Capitol, which is the stakeout location when they are getting out of town, which they are doing a day early because of all the things you just outlined there. Mani Raju on the Hill for us. Paula Reed, thank you both.